If you're over 70 and you still hold a driving license, the next few minutes are aimed squarely at you. Because there are 5 quiet rules sitting around that license right now that almost nobody has ever properly explained to you, put etc. Most of you have driven safely for 50 years or more, never troubled a soul, and you rather assume that license, sitting in your kitchen drawer, simply looks after itself. The honest truth is, it doesn't. The moment you turn 70, the rules around it change in ways that can catch out even the most careful driver alive, and getting just one of them wrong can quietly cost you up to £1,000, wipe out your insurance completely, or in the worst cases, cost you your licence altogether. There's, quote, one of these 5 in particular, the 4th one, that catches out more sensible over 70s than all the others put together. I'm going to hold it back until we get there, because once you see it, you'll understand exactly why so many people are driving around today with a problem they have no idea they even have. So stay with me. Before we start, do me one small favour. Go and find your actual driving licence and have it sitting in front of you, because by the end of this, you're going to want to check 2 things printed on it with your own eyes. I'll wait while you grab it. I'm Thomas Ashford, and I want to say something reassuring right at the start, because the panicky headlines around this subject do a lot of harm. None of this is the government trying to sweep older drivers off the road. It's not a ban, and it's nothing to be frightened of. It's simply a set of rules that switch on the day you turn 70. Rules that most people were never sat down and told about in plain words. Learn them once, spend a quiet 10 minutes putting yourself right, and you can carry on driving with complete peace of mind for years to come. Let's go through all 5, in the order they'll actually touch your life. The first rule is the one most people have at least half heard of. Once you reach 70, your licence expires, and from that birthday onwards, you have to renew it every 3 years for the rest of your driving life. That's a lot more often than the 10-year cycle you were used to for most of your life, and it's usually the first thing that surprises people. Here's the part that trips people up. Renewal doesn't happen by itself. Nobody from the DVLA comes round to sort it out for you. You'll usually get a reminder posted around 90 days before your 70th birthday, but post goes missing, reminders end up behind the clock on the mantelpiece, and the responsibility sits entirely with you. When that reminder lands, it comes as a form, and you can either sign it and post it straight back, or do the whole thing on the gov.uk website in a few minutes. Either way, have your national insurance number and current address handy before you start. This matters because if your licence expires and you carry on driving as though nothing's changed, you're legally driving with no valid licence at all, and every mile you cover is uninsured with it. Here's the good news, and hold on to it. The renewal itself is completely free. There is never a penny to pay. Anyone who contacts you asking for a fee to renew your over 70 licence is trying to rob you, plain and simple, and that message belongs straight in the bin. And if the date does slip past you without noticing, don't just carry on driving and hope for the best. There's a calm, proper way to put it right, which I'll come to at the end. One more thing worth checking while you have your licence in hand. The 10-year expiry on the photo itself is a completely separate date from the renewal we just talked about. Worth checking both while it's in front of you. Which brings us to the second rule, and this is the first thing I want you to look at on your licence, because it's about your eyesight. When you renew at 70, and every 3 years after that, you're making a legal promise that your vision still meets the required standard. In plain terms, that means being able to read a modern number plate from 20 metres away, about the length of 5 parked cars, and having a wide enough field of vision around you. If you need glasses or contact lenses to read that plate properly, the law expects you to wear them every single time you drive, and to keep your prescription up to date as your sight naturally changes. It's not just about how far ahead you can see either. It also covers your field of vision, meaning what you can pick up at the sides without turning your head. That's exactly the kind of thing that fades so gradually you'd never notice it happening. Cataracts, or the slow drift of macular changes, can quietly pull you below the standard long before you'd ever feel unsafe. For now, you don't have to send in proof of an eye test. You simply tick a box declaring you meet the standard, and they take you at your word. But that tick is a genuine legal declaration, not a formality. If you sign to say your eyes are fine when you know deep down they're not quite what they were, and you're later found out, you're looking at a fine of up to £1,000, and far worse, your insurance becomes void from that moment, meaning any accident becomes your own bill to pay in full. Worth knowing too, the government has been formally looking at whether to scrap that honesty box system altogether and bring in a compulsory eye test at renewal instead. Nothing has changed in the law yet, but it's worth simply getting your eyes tested by an optician every couple of years regardless. It's free once you're over 60, takes about 20 minutes, and settles the whole question for good. Now, the third rule, and this is the one that catches the most decent, law-abiding people, simply because they never knew they were meant to do anything at all. The law says that once you hold a license, you carry a duty to tell the DVLA about certain medical conditions that could affect your driving, and that duty sits on your shoulders, not your doctor's. Your GP won't usually do it for you, and a lot of people quietly assume someone else must have passed the information along. Nobody has. The conditions that need declaring are more common in later life than you'd think. Parkinson's, any form of dementia, epilepsy, insulin-treated diabetes, certain heart conditions, sleep apnea that leaves you drowsy through the day, and some kinds of stroke. Please don't hear this as meaning any of these automatically ends your driving, because very often it doesn't. In most cases, the DVLA simply makes a note, perhaps asks for a short report from your doctor, and lets you carry on exactly as before, often with a shorter 3-year license, so they can keep a gentle eye on things. The danger isn't the condition itself. The danger is staying silent about it. Failing to declare something you were supposed to can mean a fine of up to £1,000, and if you're ever unlucky enough to have an accident with an undeclared condition on record, your insurance can be torn up completely, alongside possible prosecution. So the moment a doctor gives you a diagnosis on that list, the right move is simply to tell the DVLA yourself, straight away. It's usually a single online form, and it's very often waved through with no trouble at all. Now, the fourth rule, the one I've been holding back, because this is the one that catches out more sensible over 70s than any other, and hardly anyone sees it coming. When you renew your ordinary car licence at 70, something happens quietly in the background that most people never notice. Any higher category sitting on your licence, the ones that let you drive bigger, heavier vehicles, are automatically stripped away unless you pass an extra medical and eyesight check to keep them. Turn your photo card over to the back and you'll find a small grid of category codes next to little pictures of vehicles. One code covers medium lorries and heavier motorhomes. Another covers minibuses. There's also a towing entitlement that lets you pull heavier trailers and larger touring caravans. And here's why this reaches far more people than you'd expect. That category quietly covers larger motorhomes and campervans over 3.5 tons too. Picture a couple who've worked hard their whole lives, finally bought the motorhome of their dreams for retirement, looking forward to touring the country together. The husband turns 70, renews his licence online in 10 cheerful minutes without reading the small print, and has no idea the entitlement to drive that very motorhome has just silently dropped off his licence. He's now driving a vehicle he's no longer licensed for, which means his insurance on it counts for nothing. To keep those larger categories past 70, you need to send off a specific form along with a medical examination completed by your own doctor after a proper checkup. The doctor will usually charge a fee for that, since it isn't covered by the health service, but for anyone whose retirement plans involve something heavier than an ordinary car, it's money very well spent. So if any of that sounds like you, go and look carefully at exactly which categories are printed on the back of your licence after your next renewal. And that leaves the fifth and final rule, which is really a small cluster of quieter traps wrapped around a genuine piece of reassurance to finish on. Your licence is legally required to show your current address. If you've moved and never updated it, that alone can land you with a fine of up to £1,000, even though changing it costs nothing at all. The same goes for a change of name after a marriage or after losing a husband or wife. These sound like the smallest of details, but they're exactly the sort of oversight that turns an ordinary Tuesday into an expensive one. And one more trap worth naming, because the scammers know all about this rule, even when you don't. Around the time people turn 70, convincing fake messages do the rounds by text and email, warning that your licence is about to be cancelled unless you renew immediately and hand over a fee. Remember what I told you earlier. Renewing at 70 never costs a penny. Any message asking for card details is a scam, however official it looks. Only ever do this through the real gov.uk website, and never tap a link in a message like that. Now, here's the reassurance, and very few people seem to know this one, so it genuinely lifts a weight off. A lot of older drivers panic that if their renewal doesn't come back before their birthday, they're suddenly stranded and forbidden from driving. In most cases, that's simply not true. There's a long-standing provision that lets you carry on driving quite legally while the DVLA is still processing your renewal, provided you meet a few sensible conditions, such as having held a valid licence, not having been told to stop on medical grounds, and having sent your application in reasonably recently. So, as long as you've done your part honestly and in good time, a slow reply on their end doesn't take you off the road at all. You're properly covered while you wait. So let's bring this back down to earth, because underneath all 5 of these rules, there are really only 2 paths, and you're the one who gets to choose which one you walk. On the first path, you assume the licence looks after itself. You tick boxes without really reading them, never think to declare a condition or check the categories, and carry on happily until the day something finally goes wrong. And only then, standing at the roadside, do you discover your insurance was worth nothing, and the whole bill is yours to carry. On the second path, you give this one quiet afternoon this week. Find your licence, look hard at the expiry date and the categories printed on it. Book a simple eye test. Tell the DVLA about anything on that health list that genuinely applies to you, and make sure your address is up to date. 10 minutes of calm attention now buys you years of driving with a completely clear conscience. It's the same road either way, and the same freedom to go wherever you please, whenever you please. The only difference is whether you keep that freedom safely in your own hands, or lose it in a single afternoon over paperwork nobody ever bothered to explain to you. So go and find that licence today, while it's fresh in your mind, and put yourself right. If this was useful, hit subscribe, turn on the bell icon so you don't miss what's next, and please share this with someone in your life who needs to see it. A parent, a partner, a friend who's just turned 70. I quote M. Thomas Ashford. I'll see you in the next one.